is, the name for the channel is Far From Running. And that of course is a spin on a particular manufacturer's advertising campaign, I think from the mid-90s. So I thought that would be a good name for the channel. We'll see where that goes. Anyway, what I'm up to today, I'm going to replace the air suspension on an 03 Allroad. Of course, the air suspension's died. That's the only reason it's here. So let's see if I can show you that. So here it is, all in its broken down glory. Of course, the owner can't complain too much. 225,000 miles. And overall, it's been a good car, but these cars do not like to ride on their axles for some reason. I mean, that's... And of course, you're riding around like a Tejano with broken and cut springs, so it's not pleasant. Anyway, we're going to convert this car to a static, non-adjustable suspension. These cars break because over time, obviously, you've got airlines running around everywhere, and those can break. The struts themselves can fail, and worst of all, the computer, the module that runs everything, can die, and that will obviously, once that's dead, you're done. And of course, that's the most expensive part. Last I knew, they were about $1,200. So considering the car is worth, $2,500, you're not going to spend $1,200 to keep the suspension afloat. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to put this static suspension on here and make it a good car again, or at least 2/3 of what it was. A lot more than what it is now. So anyway, let me show you the parts that we're going to put on it. Okay, on the rear, these are pretty straightforward. I've got the fender liner out, and that took 12 of the Torx T25, and then one little 10 mil, if you can see that, if it'll focus. Oh, there we go. And so, once you get the fender liner out, you actually didn't really have to remove it. I had forgotten. It's been a little while since I've done this job. Anyway, you've got one, I believe 13 on either end here. And then you've got an 18 that I've kindly hidden. An 18 nut and bolt holding the base of the shock. Not forgetting the 10 mil airline that's connected that I've put back over here. It's got a nice little place where you can tuck the line back up in case somebody's going to get wild enough to put the air suspension back on. So anyway, and that's all it takes to get the sucker off. If I remember right, I had to use some sort of support underneath the thing to lift up the arm to get everything fastened, but I'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, so here's one of each of the replacement struts and springs. As you can see, it does away with the airbags completely. That's the point. And take note of the aluminum spacer and base on the one on the right. That's for the front. For those that know Allroads, you're going to know that there is a lot more height on the suspension movement of the car on the Allroads. That's there so that you can put air springs on, but when you go static, you need spacers to take up that extra space. Pretty sure these actually just come from a normal sedan, and they put the spacers on there so it's spaced appropriately and has the right height. Just looking at these, I'm fairly impressed the way they look, but for the price, I'm sure they were Chinese. These are not my choice. These are the customer's choice. We do what the customer wants us to do, right? So, we shall see how this goes. Alright, so that's the comparison between the two. Almost the same height. In fact, the new one is just a tiny bit longer. We'll see how that goes. That probably helps. Anyway, this little tit right there on the top was what was stopping me from getting it out. So, I chose to do the rears because I knew they're going to be more difficult. So, again, we'll see how this goes. I should offer the control arm, the upper control arm bolts here were 18 mil. They're a little bit of a Schweinhund. I had to pull out the conduit for the wiring to get at it a little bit more easily. And of course I had to disconnect the sway bar link, you can see right there, just to get motion to pull it down enough. All right, so I gave up. Had to disturb the alignment on this thing, and if I remembered, I didn't do that on the previous car, so that makes sense why I'm having so much trouble. Anyway, I'm trying to show you the marking I made there for the one lower control arm adjustment, just so I know where I'm going back to. Yeah, more of a bear than I remembered, but we will get this done. All right, after much gnashing of teeth, I got the rear together finally. So starting up on the front, first thing is you get a pinch bolt here that goes through and holds both of these upper control arms in place. Take that bolt out. Shouldn't have to take the tie rod out. You should be good there. You will obviously have to take the strut loose. Get the light out of your way, that'd probably be helpful. Take the strut loose, get that off. And then in the cowl, there will be 3 bolts up here underneath that cover that you can't see through. There will be 3 bolts to take loose, and this end should be easier. That's part of the reason why I did the rear first. Let's see where we go now. See how bad my memory is. So far, it kind of sucks. All right, so after doing this one side, I've not done the other side. I'm not going to show the other side because that's kind of redundant. This is where it sits. More than likely it's going to settle it a little bit. Doesn't look bad. Looks a little high in the back, a little low in the front, but it'll probably even out with time. This is the Suncore kit, as I believe I mentioned. Looking for a part number. There you go. This is probably the rear set. And then the fronts are hiding. Yeah, I dare say that's the front. So Suncore. The real interesting thing is to see how this drives. So we'll find that out tomorrow. Anyway, I will see you then. Okay, got all that car together. The rear struts were a lot more difficult because obviously I had to remove the upper control arm in the back to get them in easily, and even then I had to pry them in pretty hard. Not a lot of fun back there. The fronts were really easy. Not that many tools required. I tried to list them off. I know I didn't do a very good job. They will be better lists next time. So anyway, hopefully you have some idea of how difficult this kit is to install. Not terribly. Now I'm sitting in my, by the way, I'm sitting in my own Allroad. So if you're wondering why it looks a little different, there's a reason. Anyway, driving that thing was not a lot of fun. Driving that thing, it's a little bouncy. If you've got a series of whoops, what I call whoops, quick bumps that go down on the road, you're going to know that it's not a factory suspension. It does make your car drivable again, though. For the price, you really can't beat it. Looks like they're about $550 on eBay for front and rear. And you could do this incrementally. Obviously, these cars, when they fail, the front is really low. You could get away with just doing the front up front, spend $280, I think I saw on eBay. Do the front and then do the back at another time. And again, you've got a running, driving car. It doesn't drive the best, but for the money, what are you going to do? Push come to shove, I'd actually suggest buying a used setup from an A6. If you could get the complete uprights, the spindles that hold the hubs, if you could get complete suspension from an A6 for cheap, used, I'd go that direction. And then you do away with the reason why it's so difficult to convert these things. That, and you probably retain some of the ride quality. But, to each their own. You may not be able to find it, and if that's the case, then this would be a good alternative. So, The Suncore kit is not ridiculously bad. It does make your car run again. Could be a little bit expensive in comparison to a used set, but it depends on the availability. So audisforparts.com is a very good source for used kits. So keep an eye there if you're interested in going that direction. And feel free to ask any questions. I recognize this video is not the best, but they will get better. Anyway, have a good day and feel free to contact me. Thank you.